live.
3,
yes,
2,
we're here
1,
now.
and
yes.
There it is.
Hi guys.
Everybody.
How's everybody doing?
Hello.
Yes, Mel and Nicole. Hey,
Brilliant show.
awesome.
I love it.
This is awesome.
I love it.
Well, welcome to Twin Flames Getting It Right.
Ooh, do we have a show for you?
Yes, we do. I think that when we were talking and we put it out there, this is what we wanted to do. And Mel said, hey, let's do this. Let's talk about getting it right. We were like, oh, he's talking our language. Let's talk about mind noise and what keeps people from actually finding their way into being rooted in being and being connected.
We've been getting a lot of this lately. We've got probably 4 emails saying, most of your guys' videos come from the heart, they come from the soul, but the last 3 or 4 videos have been so 3D and talking about mind noise and all this 3D stuff. Well, here's my take on it, and I'll probably shut up the rest of the video. How in the heck do you expect to get anywhere in the 5D if you don't take care of the 3D hot mess first? You got all this mind noise going on. You can't get to the soul until you shut off the mind.
Yes. I mean, we've seen what that's doing to our social, our government, and everything else. Everything that's been done, mind interacting with mind, has been self-destructive. And the issue is that what we found to be the truth was you have to kind of just skirt all of the mind noise and get straight to the root. But you can't do that without backtracking to figure out where you learned it. Because, a noisy mind is, a noisy mind is, of course, we've been told that it's a waste of time if you're not thinking things through and doing the things from your mind. Well, what we're here to probably tell you, I think you guys might even jump in on this, is that if you're trying to interact mind versus mind and trying to have a relationship that's built upon what the mind will tell you that you need to build it on, you're screwed. You might as well get used to pain. You might as well get used to jealousy. You might as well get used to being, defending your mental position. And, if you're whoever you're connected to, remember, connection has a lot to do with being rooted in being. You're going to judge or criticize or make every condition of love on them because you're already doing that to yourself. Goal is to get through that. And we wanted to come in and definitely talk about that part of it because it's what it is. If you guys watched any of the journey, what you found was I had to come to a stopping point where I realized that if I'm telling this person I'm connected to that I unconditionally love them, what conditions do I have on that? And then I fell in love with her husband. I fell in love with her child. Then I fell in love with her family. And I assumed that, you know what? Why am I putting rules in a connection? Because the connection didn't care. It just didn't. It wasn't leading based on that. So I had to love everything that she loved. That's the sacrifice. That's what you really have to look at. Because you may be going, well, they're doing this and doing that. Well, if you're having communication and it's filled with lies and it's filled with mind versus mind, you're not paying attention to what being rooted in being means. It means unconditionally loving no matter what it is. Because all you're going to do by watching their unconscious behaviors become unconscious yourself. And really, what the hell do you get out of that? So being conscious and realizing that when somebody's unconscious behavior is an opportunity for you to become more consciously aware of how you respond to that would be definitely what we're talking about. And what it does when you've allowed that to be your space of being is look at what happened. People just look and they can see it. I mean, if her husband's looking at her going, why aren't you two together? Message, I didn't put any rules. I told myself, well, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna be a part of their lives and I'll be a part of the family and they're part of my family. And it's because I'm connected. I can't remove this connection. Can't disconnect it. I didn't seek out and go, I want to find a way to sever the connection. What sense would that make? That's severing off a part of myself. Do you guys got anything to add to that?
Go ahead.
Well, actually, I was going to go in a slightly different direction. Slightly. Okay. And while you were talking, I was connecting with what you were saying, but I was thinking back to when Nicole and I first came together. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about some of the difficulties that we had at that particular point, because it made me started to think about, okay, well, what did we have to do when we were coming together that initially so many other people are having a problem with, all right? And the problem was for us, and this is just about us, is I think Nicole would agree with me, for us it came to a point where we were kind of in a power struggle, literally, between the two of us to see who was going to dominate the situation between the two of us. And there wasn't any exterior influences in our situation as opposed to what you were talking about. They were all kind of interior experiences that were going on with us about learning the dynamics and the situation and the power struggle that's going on between the two of us. And actually, I mentioned this before, I think in one of our videos, Nikki and I went through what we call the suitcase phase. And this is where we both had a suitcase packed pretty much in the closet, and any other given day or so, which one of us was leaving because we had this issue come up and that issue come up, and the fighting and the bitching and everything else that goes along with it. And I think what you were saying and what I would say is we all have to learn, and it doesn't matter what words you use, we all have to learn and understand the dynamics of the energy and the interplay of what's going on between the both of us. Call it love, call it unconditional love, call it whatever you want, it doesn't really matter. But you have to understand and be able to move and feel and express, and you have to be able to do it through the mental body, as you were saying. You have to learn how to do it through the emotional, and you have to do it even through the spiritual body, because it all comes together in one big, gigantic kind of ball of wax initially. And I think this is one of the problems that I've noticed with a lot of people, and this doesn't necessarily apply to just twin flames. I'm talking about all of our relationships, and whatever label you want to put to them, are going through gigantic changes, really. And the process is, for me, what I'm seeing that we had a problem with is the thing started at the top and it filters down through the rest of it. But all of us, same as us, we're trying to work through it from the bottom up. Won't work, all right? And this is what I'm seeing so many people are having problems with right now. They're not getting it and they're not understanding it. Right, Nick, do you want to add to that a little bit? Yes, go ahead, because I know you're going to.
Get him, Nicole.
Come at me, hon. Go ahead.
Nick's a bottle opener. She
My
just
observation is different.
That's all right. we want to hear your observations.
This is 4 different observations, definitely.
Is, from my observation, people who come into a relationship, there's inequality from the very beginning. So you're drawn to that other person for a reason.
Right.
That's kind of what I see. And usually, you know, in our case, it's because I wanted to expand my spiritual development. Most people wouldn't consider that when they go in a relationship. Most people are looking at, definitely, am I attracted to this person, and is the sex going to be good? I mean, that's the first thing that's automatic. But
you can't say was.
Oh, sorry. Is. Well, okay. Sorry, I'll let that go.
I have your back, Nicole. I've got your back.
I just say my choice is probably a little different than a lot of people out there by the age of 27, 28.
Right.
Mine was personal enlightenment and spiritual development. So everything else did not matter. Money did not matter. Material did not matter. Possessions did not matter. It was human service. And I'll tell you, there's very few people at the age of 27 that think that way. And I'm not criticizing, but I was a little bit different, and that was my sacrifice at that time. The bottom line is, coming into the relationship, definitely an inequality. And when that's what I mean, you come into it and you're looking at it from the sexual point of view, but are you actually discerning that person that's in front of you from an emotional and mental state of consciousness, which is very important, because that can get you into a lot of trouble. And looking at you know, your background, where you come from, you're only going to attract that which you need to cleanse from your energy field and your chakra system. So I look at it from a point of, unfortunately, in the beginnings, it's inequality. Even if it is a soulmate, even if it is a twin flame, there's inequality because you're not working from the top.
That's where the conflict is birthed. That's where the conflict is birthed, the inequality that she's talking about. That's where the relationship begins to crumble.
And power struggles are because of emotional fears, mental fears. It has nothing to do with, you know, oh, this person hates my family, or, you know, the person's just running away. It's emotional and mental fears. So from that point of reference, these are the things that one should look at when they're, you know, got that new person in front of them, or they're deciding they're gonna, hey, that person is very exciting to me. Perhaps they should be a little bit more discerning, heart, head, making that communication when that person is in front of them.
With us, it was such a instant, oh.
I didn't do that. That was not me.
Why, when I look at this one, I can see his essence. Past his pretty eyes and smile, I can see his essence. That scared the crap out of me. Why do I see his essence and not everybody else's? I mean, there's other pretty people out there, but with him, it was different. I could see past the pretty, past the junk.
You saying BS?
I saw it. And then into the essence. Yeah.
It's kind of along the same lines of what I was talking about. I mean, Nicole found it at 27. She realized that she wanted to be rooted in being. And that's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. It's not so much that she, you know, we say, okay, she had the place of, okay, I want to know spirituality, but I know that there's something more connected here that I need to understand or go into to understand. And that will set me free. Mm. And a lot of people, I think, may have that in the background of all the noise that's going on in here and the noise of what they find in their relationships. But all their relationships go as far as they have throughout their life. So it's almost like you don't have a set of tools to even understand what it is that you're about to go into when you go into this. The cool thing, of course, is you have this open space of, okay, I don't know what this is, but I'm willing to discover it. Us, not so much. We decided that we were going to try to take past relationship material and try to make it work in a relationship material of whatever this connection was trying to reside in. And it was a miserable situation, but it was on purpose. Because if we didn't go through it, we wouldn't understand where people can get stuck in the way that they can get stuck.
Our human relationship was a mess.
Yeah, we suck at that.
We're real bad at that.
If that was the result of what our union was supposed to bring, then yes, that was over a long time ago. Mm-hmm. That was over as it started, because we were just, our trust within ourselves to even know that there was anything deeper to go to was probably our worst mistake. Mm-hmm. Because the trust, we were trusting that we were going to fail in it even from the beginning. And the thing is when you know that you're going to trust something that's going to fail, don't worry, it fails. And, you know, we didn't realize that we weren't even able to do that because we trusted that we were broken. We trusted that we had the story that told us that, you know, we were never going to be loved more than we've ever been loved. And we told ourselves that we were a sack of crap, and all of the things that you carry around from your past when your past is already forgotten about you, we carried.
I think for me, though, I was making you responsible for my spiritual growth, my happiness, mm-hmm. my affection, my self-love. Mm-hmm. If you told me you loved me, then I loved me.
And if I didn't? Then
I didn't love me. Because how could I love me if you didn't love me? When in all reality, when I figured it out, when I got it right, right? When I got it right, it was the complete opposite. And I really, for a long time, tried to make you responsible for my spiritual growth, because just as Nicole said, I was much older. God, if I would have had that at 27, it would have been a whole different story. But when I did get to that point where I cannot do another human relationship, this isn't it. For some reason, there's something inside of me saying, this isn't it. This isn't it. This isn't it. And I was craving that spiritual growth that I was about to make someone else responsible for, no matter what, not getting it right. Not getting it right. And then when I did meet the one that I could see inside of, in the essence, I made you responsible for my spiritual growth. That didn't work out well.
No, because I was a spiritual mess. I was the guy that would say, I'm very spiritual. And then when you asked me what spiritual meant, I had no definition. I was one of them. And it was because I just didn't know how to gravitate towards anything of a sort of belief that told me there was something else out there.
Did you guys do that? Did you try to make one another responsible for each other's happiness or each other's spiritual growth in the beginning?
No. Well, let me put it this way. It's like when Nicole and I got together, it was kind of funny because, well, it wasn't funny, but what was interesting about it was immediately we were immersed in spiritual work. I mean, we had workshops going on weekends. I was doing readings and counselings and all that kind of stuff. And it was immediately, we're right into the spiritual work. So it was kind of our saving grace, because it gave us something that both of us could focus on immediately, okay, like into the mission right from day one. So the rest of it kind of came, I guess, easier, I guess, if that's the word. I mean, if there were personal issues, yeah, there were. I mean, I had a drinking problem at that time. I also suffered from a nasty case of abandonment from my childhood, coming from a broken home, that kind of stuff, all that poor me shit. You know, that stuff became an issue that did come up throughout it. But no, we didn't have that I can recall. Do you? I don't recall any of that happening to you.
I don't. For myself, I don't. But you definitely had issues.
Yeah, well, I didn't say that I didn't. I was just discussing them. I had lots of issues, as a matter of fact. Actually, to put it to you quite honestly, I don't think that I probably would have made it at all, continuing on doing the spiritual work that I'm doing, if Nicole hadn't come along, because she was kind of the same. I know it's like I always say that Nicole is the brains of the operation and I'm the mouthpiece, okay? And I can see it, the same applies to you, Sherry. You're the brains of the operation. And
too.
All right. And that's not a criticism, Lee. Okay.
I'm not taking it as a criticism. Well, I feel good about not being the boss. I mean, I'm okay letting her believe that she is.
He didn't say anything about boss. He said everything about brains.
Oh, well. Oh.
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I had to lose my mind, though.
Yeah.
Because the mind that I had before was the one that was the most damaging to myself. I mean, I was so infected in my mind, I couldn't even feel my emotional body anymore. You know, I literally could turn things off and on with like switches. If I needed to act sad, I could act sad. If I needed to act happy, I could act happy. I mean, I literally had all those switches, and it was mainly something I created, you know, into the structure I was born with it. And, you know, being without that and letting her handle that part of it works extremely well for us, because then I become something I'm not.
So you guys have delegated what you're both good at it, and you're comfortable with the way you're working it now. Is that kind of what you're saying? Yeah,
actually, the way that it works,
you're able to bounce it back and forth and accept who's leader in this department and who's leader in that department.
And we was actually talking about that today, and it kind of works as it's a unit that one piston don't work without the other.
Right.
We tried that one time, and he had an appointment one day, and it was a mess. I had a radio show. It lasted 7.2 minutes. There's 7 minutes and 2 seconds until the universe cut it off. I was talking about a subject that wasn't even on the agenda. It was a hot mess. I couldn't get, the day was ruined. The bed wasn't made. The dog wasn't fed. I didn't have any coffee. It was, it was a mess. But with the way that we work, like that, it works out really, really, really well. Now, when we're in session, we're talking to people. Lee is the mouthpiece. I love that. I love that you said mouthpiece. I'm stealing that. But
thanks, Mel.
And he's a spiritual coach, and he's an amazing coach. He's a 5D coach, and 5D, but I'm a 3D coach. So when they're not getting it, and I'm sitting here and I'm billing, I'm listening, I'm totally engulfed in what's going on. I made this word up today. It's an Olympic sport. I'm putting it in the Olympics. It's hamster wheeling. When they're hamster wheeling and they're going and going and going and going and going, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months, sometimes for years, sometimes, some glorious times, I have to just get in the screen, right, and just preach truth.
Yeah.
In 3D truth, where he speaks a completely different language, and our languages sort of mesh that.
And Mel, really what happened when, I think in 2007, when I came back into her life, she had me under such a microscope. The words that I was choosing, my mannerisms, my energy, I knew she could see right through me. And the vibrational energy in me that's when it just went through the roof. But then it gave me permission to look at the words I was choosing. Can't, won't, shouldn't. The abuse I was doing to myself, the abuse I was doing outside of myself and doing to other people. The someday, and then asking, well, what day of the week would that be? The can't. Oh, so the only word I heard is, someday we're going to be together, and I can't right now. So you've got can't and someday. What makes you choose those words? And I had to go back and realize I had a history of just keeping words like that were in here, the infection. And as I started diving into them, I started going into my emotional body. It started to really activate. And for me, the emotion is, the body's reaction to the mind. So what stories was my mind creating that kept impacting my emotional state? And my body was just really going through the convulsions, going through the purging. And it was just night after night and month after month of dark night of the soul, until there were some significant things that happened thereafter. But then when she finally said, I'm going to love you from afar, I don't need to hear from you, and she was gone, then I was just left with that space of figuring it all out. And all of the words I was choosing, I had to just throw away. But I had to go back to find out where they originated. At what point and what was being activated. And I started realizing that when I was getting activated and my emotional body would come, I would be able to just revert back to that age of when I learned how to shut that off. And that's the person who would be before you. So it was like I was locking away. And then when I started removing all of that, my inner child, my essence, was really what told me, okay, you've done this work. This work is done. You need to keep writing. You need to just stay in this energy. Even if you don't talk the same, you just don't talk the same. You can't go look for an identity. And that, I think, is really the foundation of it is, in this space, there's this way of just being able to look at each other. And it doesn't matter whether we have chosen to be with other people, whether we have chosen to be, doing the things in the past that we're on. We know the connection. We understand it. We get it. We're not putting any conditions in it to show. But when we realize that, if we came closer knowing that and not caring about all of those things and not bringing conditions, transparency was now in effect. I'm allowed to say what's in my head. If, I want to say something sexy, if I want to say something mean, if I want to say something, I can say it. I don't have to keep it in, swallow it, and watch my body react to it. And then her say, what's wrong with your demeanor? That happens still, but it doesn't happen a lot. So I think that really helped us come into union, especially with our last big, huge one, because she needed to go learn that she could share her truth too. And I think, you know, when you're in that thing, if somebody's sharing with you, well, I want to go be with somebody else, or, you know, I was doing all these things because I thought this was the life we're supposed to have, and I was trying to follow my dreams, and I went about it the wrong way. And you just start to go, oh, I get that. But when they're doing all those things and you're thinking you're just out to hurt you all the time, you're not seeing it. You're not seeing, you're stuck in the story itself. And it was really, I think, really powerful coming into the the 5-body meld, when we really just connected in the way that we connected. And then we were still put through tests. You know, the separation for a year was just, I think that was probably the most.
So you guys started for a whole year?
When I was in prison.
When she was
for a whole year?
So when she was locked up, and I'm out here, and me and Ron are raising Cameron, and I'm going, and I'm completely in this connection in such a way now where we're just not separate. I'm pulling from her energy, and I'm raising Cameron with her feminine energy, and I'm doing it with the heart that I know that she would have put into it. It was almost like I just tapped right into it, and I went, what is this? How does this work? And I just flowed in it. And then the dreams really started to come about truly what pain was all about. And, you know, the dreams started beginning with watching a woman have childbirth and the child being laid on her, and she grabbed it. After such a great amount of pain, we've been taught to run away from pain rather than run into it, and then love anyway. We
realized during that year how we were able to communicate telepathically, and patience, and unconditional love, and trust, and so much. When you think that, you know, a negative thing, like I'm paying a karmatic debt, and here I am making a payment on something that I had done in my past, and I knew that it was going to just rip us apart, and I was a mess. And it was hard for me to be transparent when we were putting this in our videos, and I'm telling the world what happened. It was honestly the best thing the universe ever gave us. The best gift. That year of separation was the best gift we had, and it grew us.
Yeah, and during the time you couldn't have convinced us of that.
No.
But as we look back and look at all the tools and what we were supposed to be doing, our greatest writing was happening during that time, and even the growth of Relationship Reinvented during that time.
That was happening then.
All of this stuff was happening, and we're going, what do we do? And we just realized, you know what? We understand. We understand because the mind has been taught to be so powerful and so destructive, and so, well, you guys know, they can go anywhere, type something in, go anywhere and gain words that are out there, and then they'll put this in their library, and then they'll try to make that happen because they think that this is the library of, you know, this twin flame thing is supposed to come into my world. Let me pull out this card. It says that we're going to live happily ever after, and then it doesn't have any detail of what the, I want to say it.
You can say hell.
I said hell. I didn't put the other word, but it tries to tell you that this is the way it's going to be, and it's just not the truth. The truth is, can you be free in your transparent state of being, and can you be rooted that way?
Right. I feel Mel.
I feel
the wisdom.
Yes,
it's coming.
No, I was just while you were I was listening very intensely to what you were saying. Thoughts were kind of popping through my mind, and when you were talking, I keep thinking of a lot of the people that we've been in contact with lately, and I've been seeing a pattern that actually you're talking about, all right? And what they're trying to do is they're taking these very intense connections, like you're talking, like what's happening, all right? And what they're trying to do is they're trying to put it together with the old relationship format, template, playbook, whatever you want to call it, and it's not happening, all right? And they don't get it. and they're getting very, very discouraged with the whole of the situation. And I can relate totally to it because that's the way I used to feel sometimes when Nicole and I were kind of going through some of the stuff that we were working through, like there was no playbook, there's no rule book, whatever. So I think I started getting it after a while when, you know, it's like there never was an issue, do I love her? Or that was always there, right? But why am I having all of these issues, and why are they all becoming so freaking personal all of the time? And finally what I started realizing is, you know, it's like you were saying, you know, for me, I started getting into the mindset where why am I taking this stuff personally? Okay, why am I taking this so deeply to myself kind of thing? And I decided I got to kind of stand back from this stuff and not get emotionally involved with it and see if I can get my head wrapped around it a little bit more instead of my emotional feeling. And I started working it out, and I started being able to understand what you were talking about when you were talking about like the mental body and getting into it and the thinking. And then it's like the record, you're kind of etching in some new grooves. Okay, and you got to work at it, Lee. You got to get in there. You got to muck this shit out. And you got to start to dig those new grooves in, and it's by repetition, 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 repetition. And finally, the little boy inside says, "Oh, you want me to do it this way? Well, why the hell didn't you say so? I've been saying so and saying so and saying so." And finally, he gets it. And then the response after that comes out, and you start doing it in that way. And it doesn't make it perfect, but what it does do is, like you were saying, it makes the rapport between the two of you, you know, back and forth kind of thing. And I notice whenever I've seen a pair, whether it's a pair of twin flames or a couple who really got their shit together, you can see the dynamics, the play that goes on between the two of them. All right. You guys have it. I know we have it. That's not bragging, just making a statement. But if you don't see that, then you know the union is not balanced and it's not stable. And I think this is one of the biggest problems that we're having right now with a lot of relationships, twin flames, whatever you want to call them, is people don't know how to stabilize it because, one, they're taking it personally. Two, they're getting into this stuff about using the old relationship playbook about it, and they're not understanding. I don't know how many times I've told people the story, okay? You know, look, guys, girls, you got to get this part. It starts from the top, and you're working it from the bottom. It ain't going to work, period. You know? And it's like, I don't know how many times you got to say it sometimes, but they don't seem to understand and get it. And bottom, you know, go ahead,
can you also do that? Maybe it's not so much that they're looking for the top and going to the bottom, you know, the higher to the.
Emma!
She just wanted to say.
Doorbell?
Not so much from the top to the bottom, but what about from the end to the out rather than from the out to the end? Because
they can do it that way too.
Yeah, they could do it. They could do, but I think because they think that they've got to obtain to reach a higher self or another state of being, they realize that there's something that they need to actually go into on the inside to actually access the higher self. Because you can't work the inner child in through anything with all of the mental noise that's keeping you from seeing or experiencing higher or inner self. It's almost like you walked into a jungle and you're going through and you've got no weapons for what's going to jump out at you. Yeah. And, you know, the only goal is to realize that you're nature, and being in nature, you can become the tree that makes it to the other side of wherever the safari is leading you to. It's really, really, really simple, but we make it so complex.
Yeah, no kidding.
We really, really do. And it's because of the story that we're telling ourselves. You can't expect somebody to give you something you're not going to give yourself. Yeah. And, you know, when you tell yourself, well, I'm going to be whole when I have them, well, start there. That's a lie. You don't sit around and just bullshit about lies. You need to tell the truth. You're whole. You've experienced a whole experience. Making it about another half is not the same thing. Two wholes make a whole. And in this case, that's what it takes. You got to see the truth. And, you know, people deal, and we had somebody, I deal in facts. Okay, you deal in facts. The facts are, you are not your mind. You are not your thoughts you keep. This connection is not the thoughts you keep. So get it out, get out of there. See from beyond that. See what nature is showing you.
That's when all the beautiful things come about. The heartfelt, the soulfelt, the soulfulness.
Right.
And the telepathy and the third eye communication and the divine sexuality and the divine going in.
Right.
That's what you can't have one and have the other.
Right.
You just can't. If you got all this going on up here, why won't they talk to me? Why have they blocked me on Facebook? Why have they done this? Why can't I do that? Why won't he leave his wife? Why won't she leave her husband? Why won't all this go on? All this 3D. You said bullshit, didn't you?
I did. I did.
So I can say it
Mel
too.
said it first.
Okay. So all that there, how do you expect to get to that soul place?
Well, if you're unconscious, you're not going to get there anyway. Just stay unconscious. Realize that if you're going to respond to their unconsciousness with unconscious, don't worry. You're both going to remain unconscious.
Make a decision. Do you want a relationship or do you want a union?
The connection doesn't care either way.
Right.
It doesn't care with labels. It doesn't care with words. It doesn't even know what that is.
Right.
It's connected. And I would say that we've all four found that. It does not matter. It doesn't matter what words we try to spout out or what path we try to show. Pay attention to the path and take the information, but take it inside and look at yourself from the inside of what that information gives you. That is what we're pointing to. Connection.
Lee, Sherry, both of you, as a matter of fact, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you find in general, you guys work with a lot of people also, do you find really that people are not taking this seriously enough in a lot of cases? And it's not just because of lack of knowledge or experience, they're just not taking it serious enough, correct?
I think that they take it too serious. I think they're taking it to the place of where their mind, no matter what traumas they've been through, no matter what has happened to them, they're taking this and making this about how can I get the salvation if I've gone through that. They need to scrap that. Because what they're, some people even tell you, oh, I've let that go. But then they get triggered when the same behaviors happen over and over again.
That's a good word, salvation. I believe that's what a lot of people see a twin flame union or a spiritual connection or whatever label you want to put on it. I don't care. That's what they see this as, salvation and happiness and love and joy and fairy dust and prince and princesses and all that lovey-dovey stuff. And they're looking at it as a salvation. And
it is salvation when you look at it and realize that you've just become the watcher.
If you get it right.
To get it right, you have to be the watcher. And the watcher, what I mean by the watcher, let me make sure I got this. The watcher means watching your own thoughts, not another person's, and not saying it is another person, watching your own. Because the way that you view anything that you're saying in your head and going, they think I'm crazy. You've just created self-judgment. You don't even see the thought that created it to say why they can't be with you. That's your permissions you're giving to yourself, and those permissions need to be removed. You can't even be rooted in being without that. You just can't. You'll continue to keep jumping on that. You'll be hamster wheeling.
Hamster wheeling.
Hamster wheeling.
It's an Olympic sport in the twin flame dynamic.
I don't know. We've won a few gold medals. I mean,
hamster wheeling.
Yes.
I like to make up.
It's not every 4 years. It happens every 2 months.
It's horrible.
Notice I used to, and then on the 11th month they have like the whole. Never mind.
Oh. It sucks. It sucks to have to jump into 3D and yank somebody by their neck and yank them back in.
Yeah. And Mel, I think have you guys seen the same? Because you'll have those people that'll come to you, they'll hear the information, but sometimes they're just so stuck in.
It's not the information they want to hear.
Well, maybe Mel is.
Yeah.
Or Nicole.
They want us to tell them what they want to hear.
This is my twin flame. You're connected. I can tell you that you're connected. What you're connected to is up to you. It's written on the inside of your wall, not mine. You like that, Nicole? Is that good? That's the truth.
This is getting ugly.
I'm just saying.
you guys you're actually saying a lot of things, the same thing, pretty much the same way we say them to a lot of people, and we're finding out that people are very quick these days. And you're right. I think they're looking for, as you said, Sherry, the salvation, or I think it was Lee, you said it, salvation in this twin flame title that they all want to anoint themselves with, kind of thing. And I think when it comes down to it, if we accomplish nothing more here tonight than this, we'll get some of them to realize that this is not a cakewalk for the weak of heart and the feeble to take on if you're going to do this stuff. And that applies to any other kind of relationship, no matter what label you put to it nowadays, because it's changing. All right. I came up with a little conclusion here a little while back. Actually, I was in meditation one day and it kind of came to me. And, you know, it's kind of like a lot of people, I don't think they realize this, but our whole society, everything in our society, whether it's the government, shopping malls, grocery stores, wherever you go, whatever is happening, it all functions around one basic premise. And that premise is relationships, all right? And that's the bottom line of why our society is in such a situation that it is today. Because the relationships that we have or have been doing are not really functioning all that well. Yes, there are some that are good, but in general, the premise or the template of relationship is in jeopardy right now, and it needs to change, and that's exactly what's happening. It's changing. And the problem is people are still following back into that old playbook. And I don't know if you've kind of tapped into this. I imagine you've tapped into it. I think what people have been doing with relationships they've had in the past is I think a lot of us have been experiencing what I call emotional love, all right? And there's a very big difference between emotional love and spiritual love, all right? And actually, we've been talking about it here back and forth on and off all night there, kind of dipsy doodling back and forth in between the two. And I think a lot of people are caught up in that experience of emotional love when they need to evolve up, like Sherry was saying, up into the heart center and experience it from that level. And it's a difficult transition, and it's not a lot of fun for a lot of people. And, you know, from my perspective, we need the information, we need the knowledge, we need the people who can help people to, you know, if they have to be coached or taught or whatever word you want to put to it, they have to be able to move into that thing because our whole society depends upon it. That's kind of the way I see, you know, the mission, if I can call it the mission that Nicole and I are doing. And I think you guys are doing the same thing. And that's what it's all about, is we're trying to bring that new template of relationships into some kind of meaningful presentation that people can grasp it in a simple form. Okay, because I notice, like when we're dialoguing here, you guys put a spin on it in one direction, we put a spin on it in another direction, but actually we're saying the same thing.
Yes.
All right.
Right.
We're just going to reach two different aspects of the people that are listening to the video or do listen to it. They're going to hear it from two different perspectives. They're going to hear it from the male and the female and from two different sides of the thing, but we're going to be, well, basically we're saying the same thing, identical.
Yes.
You're sitting back when you're watching it.
Do you find that there seems to be a fork in the road from the emotional love? Then there's a fork. Either you can take the heart center in evolution, or you can take obsession.
The mind's way of keeping
The mind's way of keeping control of the emotional love. That they tend to be taking the obsessive route and trying to gain, and they're going on the internet trying to gain all this knowledge from all this different mess that's out there.
The ego's view of a relationship.
Oh. And then it's just turning them into professional hamster wheelers.
Well,
that's all I got.
You know, can I jump in here for a minute?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay. There's just something I wanted to throw in because I know we're going to kind of reach a cosmopolitan audience here with this video, guys. You guys are going to put up there afterward. One of the things that I've noticed lately, and actually I did a couple of videos on it here not too long ago, is we're getting to the point now, and you guys are, I think, are probably into this at this point where you know that, like you said before, Lee, when you were expressing your feelings from your emotional body, from your emotional center.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's happening now is with this evolution that we're going through, is we're starting now to, a lot of us express our feelings, not from the belly anymore, but we're actually expressing feelings from the heart center. Okay, it's like I'm constantly commenting about people who say, well, I'm feeling angry, but I can't be angry like I used to be. It's coming up here in the center of my chest and it's coming out here, but it's not anger anymore. What the hell is it? All right. Or I'm feeling sad and melancholy and I'm feeling this and I'm feeling that, but it's not down here anymore. It's up here. All right. And it's coming out and it's expressing itself. And this is changing what people are in the dynamics or whatever. And then we get into another state of confusion again, because the head comes in, like you say, the mental mind. Well, what the hell is going on here now? Now we got another toy I have to figure out and what's going on with the thing. And this is going to change the whole dynamics of relationships, how I communicate with people, and everything else is going on. You know what? We need to stay here for about another 50 years, each of us, because we got a lot of work ahead of us. You know that?
Yes. And they'll probably be watching this 50 years.
And lots of fun, too.
Your shit
Just imagine how much fun we're going to have.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
I really feel that, Mel. I mean, I think what's happened, and even just taking the emotion anger, what's happening is when it does come to the heart center, is that you know the difference between powerless and you know because you're powerless to change anything, and that's what's going to be there. But what's starting to go by the wayside is your mental position is dissolving. Your sense of self that you've had in your mind is dissolving, and it's going to take time before we get to that, because when we finally aspire to be that, we'll change the way we even do schools.
Yep.
Right now we go to school. I mean, we were talking about this today. You got math, science, social studies, language arts, and of course history. And what is history going to teach you? It's going to teach you how to remember pain. It's going to talk about all the bad things that happened to us in history. And as you grow up, you've been pretty much programmed to remember history, and you remember the pain of your history. And it becomes his story. So what ends up happening is at some point, we're going to have to incorporate connection or relationships in schools, because we're missing it. There's never been anybody teaching you how to be happy. You grew up and you went to all these classes at school, and you came out of school and there was never a class that was happy, and you came out and said, oh man, happy was good today. And your mom said, oh, that's fantastic. What did you learn about being happy? And then you share it. That just doesn't happen. But we are starting to evolve from a standpoint of seeing the truth. And that's what this energy is here to bring. So if you're part of the mission, you're part of the mission. And I think all of us are a part of that mission of, hey, you got to go in and look at this. This is not about somebody else making you happy. This is about the happiness that's already within you that you haven't tapped into to share. Mm-hmm. And this is what we're trying to help people understand. This is an evolution. Mm-hmm. This twin flame, this soul, whatever this soul connection is here to bring, that's the part that we've missed, because we come into this and we experience the world of form where we can play with things, and we never really realize that the things that we're playing with are the things that are destructive, and we're using destructive patterns to do. But now it's time for the influence of the positive energy to do exactly the opposite.
Get it right.
Yeah, and that's exactly what people are not understanding.
Yes. So, Nicole, I have a question for you. And I think we'll do this. We'll go around. You guys can ask this question. We're just going to ask one question. I have a question for Nicole. Are you there? Because you were talking about how you've gone into the spiritual. You wanted to go with, what is spiritual love?
I come from a different point of reference all the time.
No, that's fine. You'll speak to people who
come from that point of view.
Yeah.
I just look at the whole concept of relationship a little bit differently. When I approach a relationship, I try to look at being in that other person's shoes.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah, it's kind of a sacrifice. Actually, it's probably one of my wounds, actually, where I allow my partners to take a lot of advantage of me, because I can feel their pain. I understand where they're coming from. So I will always try to be kind and assist them in their healing process. So it's just something in the past that I've had to look at, and it's things that I've worked on with Mel. So it's a little bit different. I think it's because, Mel and I definitely, with our mission of coming together, it's been a very, very deep healing of each other in terms of inner child, male, female energy. And he does it from the John perspective. And for the longest time, I need to understand it from, I used to ask John actually this funny question, and that was, maybe what, I got to think about it now. I think Jeremy was 2 years old. I used to ask John if there was a mathematical equation to understand twin flame. And, you know, is there some kind of, you know what I mean? Like some kind of Stephen Hawking mathematical equation to that the universe actually, you know, can physically show it in front of my face to understand it. And you know, it's kind of interesting because I sat down with Mel for the first time, was it 2 days ago? And I actually showed him the astrology chart, which has been probably one of the nicest things about understanding our mission together, and the energy and the spiritual love and the commitment. And you know, so when you ask me that, like, that's a big question, because what I see is what I've just been putting so much effort and time was I wanted to understand that mathematical equation embodiment of that spiritual love. So you're talking to an analytical person that does a lot of things in mind and a lot of things in the dream state. So when you ask me that,
yeah,
I think mathematics. How does it create from the quantum
I think what was so interesting about
experience to bring it back in? Like, what you're asking is to put it in a physical, tangible experience, like eating a really good piece of cheesecake with, you know, cherries. I don't think you can define spiritual love. It's a wave. It's a frequency. It's a dynamics. But you know, if I have to put it in physical form, it's you know, the chart that I've recently come up with in expressing Mel and I as a state of consciousness. So does that kind of
yes
get a whole different frame of mind?
Can I try to, let me say it the way that I heard it come from what you just.
And don't forget to use your words, because I know it is hard for you to use your words, because I can definitely see that. When you were young, you definitely were not able to use your words. You were very quiet. You be quiet. Stay in the corner. Don't say anything.
I was still rebelling. If I understand what you're saying, spiritual love is to you is that you're able to actually transform and actually travel through space into other people's state of being, so that way you can understand what it is that they've gone through, so that way you can absorb their energy to understand what their core belief system and feeling represents.
Absolutely, you got it.
Well, see, and again, it's almost like you speak to an audience of people that do that. Some people take it, though, and they take it to another level where they say to themselves, nobody cares about what I think or feel or anything, when they endure all of those things. And that's not the truth. You are able to actually transform and actually take that and make that something that you can help them with. And that's part of the dynamic. That's part of the things that we both experience as well. So no, bravo. I thought you explained it perfectly. I just heard it differently than probably everybody else.
Gemma, we can't control the puppy.
Hey, Cameron, can you put Gemma outside, please, with Mike?
It's the puppy. Mike usually video bombs, but now the puppy's acting up.
Yes.
Ugh.
They got a bath today. They look fabulous, but they're gonna go roll around in some dirt. That's what they want.
That's what they're wanting.
Yes. So okay, so and a question for you, Mel.
Shoot.
What is the soul?
Oh, I love that.
What is the soul?
Oh, I love
Yes.
that.
Oh, I can only give you my perspective of it.
That's
it, and it will be very limited.
we would love.
I'll give it my best shot. All right. I'm going to put it in a two-part answer.
Okay.
Part number one. Okay. For the longest time, I believed that soul was a energetic being. All right. that lives somewhere out there or up there or over there. And I was an extension in the body of a portion of that something up there, whomever, wherever it was kind of thing, in an energetic body. And I was it. Well, things have changed. I don't believe that anymore. All right. From the experiences that I've had, the soul is like a multi-dimensional experience of expressions of itself in so many different realities and dimensions and states of consciousness that I don't think that my primitive human mind could actually grasp the concept in any way, sane form, to put it into words that would actually make sense. In other words, I don't really know, Lee. I only know what I've experienced up to this point that would give me some kind of a definition, that probably would be very poor, and that's the best one I got to now.
That's
Beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Okay.
Perfectly.
Beautiful.
And there's probably much more to it than that, but that's what I've got to this point. And I'll tell you something, even to the point where I can recall where I used to be a really big believer in reincarnation. And then I started having experiences of myself in different timelines and realities and dimensions, where I actually found myself living, and Nicole has had these also, and that blew that theory all to hell. All right. One of the things that I found, and this kind of goes into what we're talking about, is I'm finding for myself, I've had a lot of problems letting go of old belief systems about a lot of things, including relationships, all right, of the past, and moving into new things that are coming into consciousness now, awareness and new mental states that I'm kind of had the pleasure of tapping into, and new expressions of my emotional energy that I'm wrapping my head around, and I'm having to, broaden my beliefs in that perspective also. I find, to be honest with you, I find the mental body can be a real pain in the ass, literally, all right, because it's very limited in its perspective, and it will play so many head games with you, all right, it really wants you to bring you down and make you feel like you're some small little thing, when actually we're so much bigger than what we think we are. And we've been locked in this little mental box for God knows how many centuries, all right? And some of us are just starting to break out now and realize how much fun we can have, literally. I don't know if that was an answer or a statement.
No, that was perfect. That's perfect. And I think the bottom line of everything you said is remove psychological time, or just remove time in general, and you can break free. Yeah, that's it. Honestly what I heard that needed to be heard and felt. But, we carry these old tapes. Like you said, the one thing that we try to remove is wanting to realize that time is really an illusion anyway. You only have this moment, or you have nothing at all. Anything that your mind tries to project, whether it's past or future, makes no difference. It's just you trying to remove yourself out of your physical body into something that does not exist. That is the lie. And when the mind realizes that truth, notice I said mind and that truth, it knows that there is no escape, meaning that you no longer make time into an enemy. You actually become friends with it because you no longer believe in it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big issue, the time thing. I think the time thing I don't know about you guys, but a lot of situations during the day, and I'm sure this is happening to other people, not just us also, but we lose track of appointments. We have to be meticulous about keeping track of appointments, otherwise we forget. Sometimes things that need to get done, they get forgotten, or I've gone to the, you're starting to go towards the fridge because you want to get something to drink, and you get halfway out there and you forget what you were doing or where you were going. Okay, and at 70 you can say, okay, I got an excuse for this shit. Other people after it's doing it, you say, oh, I'm not as bad off as I thought I was. And this is because of the concept of time is beginning to disintegrate. And this really bears down on all of the stuff that we believe in, especially in regards to people and communication and going back and forth. And this is, it's what's happening, and it has to go in order for us to actually become more free than what we are now. We've been so locked in a box for so long, it's not even funny. Right, boss? You see, she knows.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's wrap this up. Where can they find you guys?
Yes.
One what?
Where can they find you guys? Let's wrap this up. I said,
If somebody was looking for Mel and Nicole, Goldray Twin Flames, where would they find you?
Oh, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on our website, twinflames.ca. Okay, you can find us on YouTube. And where else can you find us, Nick? You're the brains of the family.
No, you're doing it.
I'm doing it.
You're the one working the networking. I do the behind the
Oh, that's where they can
stuff.
find us. Not hard to find us anyways. We're all, yeah, and we're on Facebook too. We have 2 groups on Facebook.
Awesome.
Our Twin Flame group, and we have a Grow Up and Into Divine Partnership, another one. Grow Up and Grow Into, another Facebook group there that people can come in there and sit down and chitter chatter, whatever they want to do, kind of deal. So, and anyways, I have enjoyed the conversation with you too, and I guess we're gonna wrap this up, right?
Yes, let's do this again though. This was absolutely fabulous, and I'm
Yeah,
sure.
it was fun. I rather enjoyed it, and I think it might be apropos if we do another batch, pick another topic, and I'm sure we can really, rap about it, because we're kind of all feeling each other out, kind of getting the feel and playing with the energies kind of thing, and I think it works, because it does anyway. So,
Yes.
how you, Nicole?
I'm fun.
She's making fine too. Okay.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Thank
Stay
you.
strong, may the force be with you.
Man, if I get that one
Thank
more time.
God it's the 7th.
Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.